Feedback Learnex. English forever.
Welcome, members, to this week's edition of Feedback Learnex, where we're going to take a look at Witchy Origins. Where did these beings come from? The origin of witches. The origin of witches dates back to the first ages of humanity. They were people who practiced witchcraft. The sorcerer is associated with the seer or clairvoyant. Others associate him with a shaman, who are those who communicate with the deceased or other forces of nature, and who can also heal the sick of the body and soul. While witches are characters of contemporary imagination, thanks to stories, novels, movies, as well as Halloween, which is a pagan holiday where it was believed that the spirits of the dead appeared and mixed with the living. The Spanish word bruja is of doubtful etymology. The first documented appearance of the word in its Brooks form dates from the end of the 13th century. It is said that a witch is the woman who has the power of sorcery due to the help of the devil or some other demon. Witches in ancient times. The origin of witches or witchcraft in ancient times cannot be specified, since at the time it was reproached or feared by sectors of the population and was even banned. However, numerous literary references testify to the continuous practice of witchcraft at this time. The belief in witchcraft is shared by numerous cultures throughout history, and each of them interpreted it in their own way. Witches have had great importance in the folklore of many cultures, creating fascination and terror in their wake. Middle Ages and Renaissance. The origin of witches in the Middle Ages bequeathed to us the physiognomy of the witch as we know her today. An ugly woman, generally old, with a wart on her face, dressed in black, flying mounted on a broom, with full moon frequency. Since the moon and the witch were related to each other, stirred disgusting concoctions in an iron cauldron and owls, black cats, and bats. This era is the beginning of the persecutions where witches were condemned to pay fines and imprisonment for witchcraft adherents. But it is in the year 1326, through the pontified bulla of Pope John the 22nd, that is when a great persecution begins at the origin of the witches, which extends for about 4 centuries. Witch hunts. In the middle of the 10th century, some religious groups appeared, like the Cathars, who affirmed a creative duality between God and Satan, were a great threat to the church. This is how the witch hunt begins, bloody and relentless, to exterminate this group of heretics, since they posed a threat to the supremacy of the power of the church and were to be eradicated and purified at the stake. Fortunately, in this modern era, witches are presented from a relatively more favorable and less dangerous perspective. Finally, the origin of witches will always be an interesting topic, and the witch will appear as an evil being as opposed to the fairy godmother, who is a magical, beneficial being. As you can tell from this history about witches, it's always been intertwined with historical facts and things going on around the world. Now, thanks for joining us in this week's edition of Feedback Learnex. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to take a look at what exactly Day of the Dead means, where it comes from, and what different symbols signify. So stay tuned next week, Thursday night at 9:15 p.m.
Feedback Learnex, English Forever. Estamos en sintonía. Feedback Learnex, English Forever.